This is the Effing Business Podcast. You ask the questions, we answer. Welcome back to the podcast, episode 15. Aaron, lessons you learned from failing. Go.
Well, I don't think you learn anything from success.
Fair.
Right? I think it's a lot harder to succeed constantly and learn from it.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you fail, you have to stop and regroup and figure things out. So I think that you have micro failings on a regular basis, and those give you the opportunity to examine, determine why it's happening, what you're doing wrong, and make changes.
Gotcha. And those micro, in my opinion, those micro failures are what make or break you in the business world, right? So like you could either make a micro failure into a huge problem, right? You can make it into this is it, we're failing, we're going to go wrong, whatever, everything's going horrible. Or you could say, hey, we make this adjustment, and 90% of this idea was great, and we make this tiny adjustment, now it's a great idea. And the same thing with successes at the same time. You can take a really not great idea or a fully formed idea, sell it as the best thing since sliced bread, but it really wasn't, and you're not willing to make the changes because you thought your ego got in the way of more growth. So taking it, cup half empty or half full, it's the same idea of you're either going to look at it, make changes to the failures, right? To the small failures and always trying to get better. It's always about like failing forward or succeeding backwards, right? You don't look at the problems you have within even a successful idea. Say, hey, how can we make this idea better? Vice versa, the person who says, oh, I made this micro problem, now this idea, maybe we should do something completely different. Like, no, just fix that small issue, and you have a great idea here.
I tell you this all the time, success gets in the way of success. So we've dealt with, like, in our businesses, a lot of third parties. And, like, they do a lot of things right, but they'll have one area where they're awful at. Let's say they're awful at customer service.
Right.
And, like, I'll have to go to you and say, why are we dealing with this guy? He's awful. His customer service, he doesn't get back to us, whatever. And then, like, we talk about it, and it's like they're making a lot of money. They're doing very well.
Right.
They don't see their failures. So when you're constantly successful, you don't see the areas that you have to improve on. Or you see them and you're like, it doesn't matter to me. I'm doing well. Right. So I think
they may know about it, but it's so marginal. Like, yeah, but they still have to come to us. That we're still getting these accounts. We're servicing people. They're getting their money, and they're
correct.
Happy.
They don't care.
Right, exactly. Like it's not changing the bottom line. If anything, it's helping their bottom line.
Some ways, yes. So I think that you have to constantly review what you're doing. You have to measure. You have to read your data. You have to understand what you're doing, what you could do better. What's a pipe dream, and I'm never going to get anything out of this. Like, let's stop chasing this. We've invested a lot of time, money, and energy in this, and reasources. Just say, okay, move on. It's not producing.
When do you do that, though? Like,
I'm sorry?
When do you decide that that's a pipe dream? We put a lot of money or time or like.
It depends how you measure time. So for us, it's easiest to do the end of the year. We meet every month to review our numbers.
Right.
For some businesses, maybe quarterly is better. You have to kind of make up that structure, whatever works best for you and your business, and then proceed.
I think there's no scrapping everything. That's my opinion. I think that you learn lessons as a person, but also maybe even as a product. So
clarify when you say there's no scrapping everything.
Like saying like this was a total bust, and like we're not going to do anything like this ever again. Well, I mean, there was something successful. Maybe there was larger things that got in the way.
The idea of failing forward.
For example, yeah, exactly.
So even though you didn't complete what you
let's
wanted.
say you're selling a product, right? Widget A. You sell widget A, it flies off the shelf, but everyone keeps complaining about it. So was it a failure? No, you learned that how to sell widget A, right? It flew off the counter. So fix widget A, make widget B, make it a better product. Use the same marketing, same way to get widget B sold.
So again, I think you're kind of touching on how you define what failure is, right? So are there massive failures like you're going out of business, you're closing down, you're shutting your door, or are we talking about you're trying to open up another revenue stream, or you're trying to achieve something and you didn't actually get there? So I think that's kind of important also. So like with us, we're reviewing our expenditures on revenue streams and what's working and what's not, and you make adjustments according to that. But if you don't review that, you're never going to know what's really working, what's not working, what you can adjust, what you can do better.
True. Yeah, I mean, I think again, like I said, like just scrapping everything is a failing concept. It doesn't let you learn from any experience. You're just scrapping the learning experience. You're scrapping the whole thing. So now not only did you waste the time and money on that product or marketing campaign or whatever it may have been, you wasted all of it, the time, the money, the resources, whatever done to the next thing. So you're constantly going to do that because nothing's going to be perfect every time.
I see potential revenue paths as like these pathways, actually, right? Like
Right.
roads traveled down.
Right, like
okay.
forks in the road.
Right. So like I think I was watching like a TED talk. I forget where I saw this, where they were talking about that pharmaceutical companies don't share their data. So they go and test a drug. It doesn't work. They don't like the results. They scrap it. Years later, somebody else comes along and does this.
It makes a small tweak.
No. It also fails. But the company B didn't know company A ever did this.
Right.
Right? Part of the process of failing is knowing I went down that path. It doesn't work. Here's why. Avoid it in the future.
Right.
So when you go to expand again, or when you go to do something again, don't do that, or do it differently because you've done it before.
So you think they should share their data, or they shouldn't?
Oh, yeah, I think they should, but that's kind of another subject. I'm using it as an example to explain that you go down these paths. We've done a lot of this
Right.
over almost 10 years or 10 years, and we found things that don't work or things that could work, but what we have to do differently.
But we used segments of those bad ideas or non-successful ideas that become a successful idea.
Correct, and that's my point. And we couldn't do that unless we had that failure. So that was a forward failure for us because
Right.
we made the attempt. It didn't work out the way we wanted to, but now we have that experience and the data and the knowledge and how to do it differently the next time.
What was the one failure that you remember that, or one thing you took from a failing idea? So let's call it idea A. What idea did you take that, this whole idea didn't work in totality, but this thing we grabbed from it and said, this worked, everything else sucked, but the beginning, this one failure was good. Let's take this one attribute, this one, part of it out, and then we can use it for other things.
When we first started our adjusting business, it was just you and I. And then we slowly added adjusters. And the compensation, the structure, the different ways we taught them and trained them and so forth, we didn't do a very good job at.
Right.
So I think we took those lessons and went back and said, this is not actually a bad idea. We need to train people better. We need to structure the compensation and so forth so that it works for everybody.
Right.
Like it wasn't well thought out. And then I think those were like the first things that come to mind for me that we improved upon over time. We had failures. We didn't give up in that way. We now have, I think we're up to like 12 different independent adjusters that work with our business. And we were able to come to a place that works for the adjuster, for us, for our business, because we had those failures previously and we learned from the mistakes we made.
Right. I think that's always the hardest part for me in the business is in the early times, you don't have ideas to play off of, right? Like to make your own recipes from all the different ones, right? So you could take 10 years down the road, I see it a lot easier to come up with an idea. One, because of experience, but also because I take, we have this recipe over here and this recipe over here. If we take like a couple of ingredients from this
Elements
side,
of both.
exactly, and make this one, we have another now third idea. And now the 3 becomes 6, and 6 becomes 12, and so on. It's very hard at the beginning because you only have 1 or you only have 2, and it's hard to make another recipe and another recipe and another recipe.
Getting that traction in the beginning.
Right.
And then once you've kind of grown
Once
from
we
that,
gra- exactly.
then things can spawn fairly
All
quickly.
right. So,
That was a good conversation for episode 15.
15. That's a wrap.